it. Good afternoon, one and all. The best way to predict your future is to create it. Good afternoon, one and all. I'm Nikita R. of 3rd year BCom Sesharipuram Degree College, Mysore. It is my great privilege to welcome everyone for today's session. First and foremost, I would like to welcome and introduce today's resource person, Mr. Bhavesh Patel, Talent Advisor of Wipro Limited, Bengaluru. He is a collaborative professional with a successful track record of working with senior leadership globally to improve business results through people and HR solutions. He has an extensive experience in talent development, talent acquisition, talent management, talent retention, learning and development process, redesign and organization effectiveness efforts globally. Mr. Bhavesh Patel's specialization also includes the building and leading of a strong process-oriented HR delivery organization, providing thought leadership on building engagement, talent and career frameworks to curate enhanced employee experience. And he has experience of a talent advisory in Wipro Limited, has it around for 3 years. And he also worked as a head of campus hiring in Wipro Limited, Bengaluru. It's our privilege to have you as our resource person. My heartfelt welcome to you, sir.
Thanks, Nikita, for this warm welcome.
Thank you.
And
I
thank you.
extend my heartfelt welcome to Mr. Prajwal Vasista, coordinator of ICT Academy and his team. I welcome you, sir. I also like to welcome Professor Samya Irapake, the principal of Sesharipuram Degree College, Mysore. I welcome you, ma'am. Last but not the least, I also welcome all the teaching staffs and all the students from different and various colleges. Once again, I welcome you all for today's session. Now I request Mr. Bhavesh Patel, sir, to take over the session.
Thank you so much, Nikita, for such a warm welcome, and thanks for everybody involved in making this happen. So I know it's a Friday, and typically all of us are looking forward to a good weekend. So let me just share my screen and let me know once you guys can see my screen. Nikita, you'll have to confirm if and when you can see the screen.
It's visible, sir.
Okay, perfect, great. So
it's visible.
Thank you. So yeah, the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to spend some time talking to you about my experiences, talking to you about some of the things that I have observed in students. Thanks to my current role, I am obviously from a large scale perspective interacting with students across the country throughout. And I wanted to take this opportunity to kind of share what exactly are some of the challenges that we face when the transition of campus to corporate happens, right? And while it's a great place to be, it also is important for all of us to understand that the journey is a long and arduous one. The journey is not something which is easy. It takes a lot of hard work to be able to make into a successful career. And before I begin, I just thought I'll give you a quick brief on who I am. Right, I have and Nikita did give a great introduction. Thank you for that. But in summary, I've got close to about 17 plus years of experience. I've worked with the best of both worlds. When I say best of both worlds, I have worked with the largest of MNCs, and I've also had a stint with an Indian organization, Jana Small Finance Bank, which is primarily into microfinance. So if you look at my career chart, started my career with Genpact, then moved on to IBM. I've had a 2-year stint with Capgemini, then Jana. And in my present role, I am the head of campus hiring for Wipro. So my prime responsibility or my team's responsibility is to ensure that we end up hiring 35,000 students in the coming year, and which is a great story to tell. And if I am a student who's passing out in 2022, I think I'll be jumping out of joy knowing that not just Wipro, but all the other large organizations are also hiring in plenty, which gives each one of you an opportunity to kind of be very, very assured, be very secure in terms of knowing that each one of you will end up in having your dream job. What's more important, however, is you trying to assimilate some behavior, you trying to align to some of the thoughts that you might have learned from a theoretical perspective. But how do you translate that into action once you move into the corporate world? So as I said, going back, in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to talk about primarily some of my experiences of what is going to change thanks to the pandemic doing what it has done. Some of the aspects that hiring managers are looking forward to when people like me go to campuses. Now, obviously, all of this is online. When we go to campuses, what exactly are some of the traits that we look at? And I'll end with some of the tips that I feel are important for each of the students in India, at least, to be able to grasp and hone so that they can become successful students who can bag offers for the company of their choice. And I think if you were to even take out 2 or 3 tips, I'm sure you'd learn some good experiences which will help you in bagging a job of your future, right? Moving on. So what has happened, right? What has happened, and this is not COVID. This is 5 years ago, and at least I remember when I started my career, or at least 5 years, 7 years down the career, and I don't know if you guys know, but while and this is inside secret, by the way, while all of you spend so much time in preparing a resume, you'll be surprised to know that research has kind of proven, and this is an Harvard research that has proven that a recruiter, and I'm not blaming our fraternity, all I'm saying is that we are so enthralled with the number of resumes that we have that the average time that a recruiter spends on looking at a resume is 7 seconds. So imagine in 7 seconds, how can a human being be able to judge who's the right fit and who's not the right fit? So what's important is to pick up nice words. What's important is to look for those specific keywords. I won't call them jargons, but keywords that actually define you, right? And that word used to be innovation. That word used to be innovation, creating something new. How do I do things better, and so on and so forth. That has given way to disruption now, and with COVID coming in, the disruption has kind of increased significantly. So what we're looking at is primarily people who can disrupt the way of thinking, right? If we were to compare innovation versus disruption, it is just about doing the same thing in a different fashion, which is challenging something that's already been innovated to be done in a different fashion. Let me give you some examples, right? Some of the examples could be all the unicorns that are coming up, all the startups that are coming up. I mean, and Amazon is a classic case. Amazon is what? I mean, if you look at Amazon, it is a result of us human beings being lazy, right? If I was okay to go and shop, Amazon won't exist. If I was okay to say, you know what, instead of ordering something on my tablet or my iPad or phone, I would rather go and experience and touch and feel and then buy that stuff, right? Or likewise, your Swiggy and Zomatos of the world. I mean, while it obviously makes life a lot easier for us, but those are all disruptive ideas. Those are all ideas that have actually played on human psyche, played on human mind, and that's the kind of talent that everybody is going to look for as and when we move along. So we are looking for people who obviously innovate, but who challenge the status quo. I mean, gone are the days, and at least in my generation, it was all about whatever my manager said, whether it's right or wrong, whether I think it's right or wrong, I will just have to say yes and move on. Those days are gone. We are now talking about an age wherein I face this every day. I have juniors with 1-2 years experience in my team. I've got a team of 53 people, and there are folks who do not shy away from challenging me, saying that, you know what, I'm sorry, Bhavish, but I think your approach in this fashion is perhaps not right. I think we can do it this way. And that's appreciated. Those are values which are So these are not challenges, right? I mean, none of the juniors in my team is trying to challenge my authority or trying to challenge my leadership skills or my vision. They are only trying to tell me that, do you think if we can do it the other way around? Do you think we can bring in some bit of disruption and make things happen faster in a different fashion so that it kind of eventually helps everybody? So my mojo of letting you know this monologue was primarily to tell you that do not shy away from pointing questions. Do not shy, and this is not just for corporate life. This is throughout. I mean, you need to be people who question the status quo. You need to be folks who think through, who asks questions at the right time to the right people and not shy away. I mean, no question is a stupid question, right? As they say. So be somebody who are always inquisitive, always wanting to challenge things, always wanting to do things differently. Right. Moving on, COVID, as we all know, it's a forced transformation. None of us felt that something like this can happen. If I would have told you guys that there will be a time when all your webinars will happen online, I would be sitting in Bangalore, you guys will be in Mysore, and still listen to me. There'd be time in 18 months, we will all stay at home and work from there and study from there and whatnot. Right? None of us knew that it is possible, but COVID taught us that. Right? What COVID, while obviously there are lots of negative connotations about COVID, I think if there is one silver lining in whatever has happened, I think it's the transformation. And again, researchers have kind of proved that COVID has actually taken us 5 years into the future, as far as technology, as far as transformation, as far as thinking goes, right? And the classic case is, as we speak right now, we are having a conversation where I didn't have to move an inch from my home to be able to address students sitting at Mysore. In other scenarios, I would have been required to travel, spend 6-7 hours in going back and forth and whatnot, right? And likewise, all of you, some of you might be in your college, some of you might be in your hometown, some of you might be in any part of the country. And what COVID has taught us that with digital transformation, a lot of things can be done differently, which we were not used to. So right now is the time when the whole world is trying to transform, the whole world is trying to grapple with aspects of what exactly are few of the things that I need to do to be able to not just adjust, but re-innovate, reimagine, and transform everything that has been done in the past. So what happens? I mean, with all of this happening, there obviously are trends in the market which are going to change, right? Talent is nothing but people that we hire, people that organizations hire. And if I were to focus primarily on the fresher pool or the fresher talent coming straight from campuses, I feel that there are these 6 trends that's going to impact you significantly. And all of you who are looking forward to having a successful head start in each of your careers need to understand this, need to know this. And if some of you think that there are some aspects that you're not aware of, you should invest energy and try and understand what exactly this is about, and then try and see if you can implement that into your overall repertoire, right? The first one is the gig economy. And we keep saying gig is the new big. Gig, for some of you who do not understand, is a terminology used for part-time work, is a terminology used for consulting assignments, is a terminology used for somebody who perhaps is not 100% keen on saying that I don't want to, and this is your generation, right? Your generation, so I mean, I'm not saying it, this is for everybody, but most of you, or some of you at least, are people who feel that what's the point of joining one organization? Why can I not work in small pockets, open my own consulting firm, open my own startup? And all that is brilliant, right? That's a great idea. So what's going to happen in the long run, and what's taken forefront, is the whole gig economy, of the aspect of your ability to be able to think big, your ability to be able to transform your work into different departments, into different consulting assignments, and still be able to earn as much as you would have earned in a normal 9-to-5 job, right? So that's one aspect of talent which is going to change significantly in times to come. The second is going to be on data, right? I know that apart from those who are in analytics, a lot of us fear data. A lot of us get very, very boggled with saying that, what do I mean? I struggle to make analysis or interpret data in a different fashion. So I think the time has come for us to all start understanding data. I mean, all of you people who are in statistics, mathematics, obviously are pro in this. But those who are not, I would advise all of you to start looking at data very, very closely, start making sense of the data, start analyzing data trends and what numbers are telling you, because most of the times numbers tell you the whole story. And very soon they'll be in every job. And it could be a HR job, for example, it could be a marketing, a sales, or a technology driven role. All of those roles will demand people who understand data, who can interpret data, who can analyze data, and who can make sense out of the data. The third aspect is the trust economy. Now, what do I mean by trust economy? So I just recently read about Tom Friedman, who happens to be one of the biggest British columnists. He said, and I quote, that trust is going to be the only legal performance enhancing productivity tool, which goes to show that when you start working, right, we are not just looking at individual performers. We are looking for people who trust each other. We're looking for people who can work in teams. The whole concept of we before me, I mean, at least in Wipro, we value that significantly. And I'll give you a classic example. Let's say, let me draw a parallel from cricket. Virat Kohli, right? And then I think a lot of you understand that analogy. Virat Kohli continues to be a great player, continues to be a brilliant individual contributor. But when you look at RCB as a team in IPL, they have not been able to make that cut in the last 13, 14 years. And the result is because of the cohesiveness in the unit not being available. They are great superstars, but they are individual, brilliant performances that are not coming together as a team. Whereas if you look at, let's say, a KKR or a Chennai Super Kings or anybody else, there might not be a lot of brilliant individual performances, but the whole aspect of the entire unit coming together and supporting each other and trusting in each other's abilities is what makes the difference. So the time has come for each one of us to understand, acknowledge, and also start working towards how am I perceived in teams. I mean, do my friends, do my people in projects understand my scoping, understands how I work with them, and including me. I'm not saying that some of you, I'm saying including me. There was this time when I just could not work in teams because I had very strong opinions. And my problem with working in teams was that anybody who says that let's take path X, whereas I think we should take path Y, I would get into a disagreement. I will do two things. Either I'll force the issue that everybody has to go and take that X route, or if that person who's given the Y route is a bigger leader than me, I would say, you know what, I am not interested anymore. I'll be a part of that team, but I won't contribute anymore. So I'll be a passive contributor. What I've realized over a point in time is that's not going to help anybody. That's not going to help me. That's not going to help the team. That's not going to help the person or the leader who said to take another path. So over a point in time, I've been able to successfully think through and today, if you ask me, if I introspect, I find out that I'm more open to feedback. I am, in fact, even open to say that somebody who's just started their career 2 months ago has the ability, and I have the ability to take feedback from them, saying that, you know what, I think we could have done it this way. The earlier me would have very definitely said that, you know what, you've just come, you're a kid, relax. I have 17 years of experience behind me, so please follow what I say. But I think what's going to become important is your ability to work in projects, your ability to work in teams, and a lot of questions that your hiring managers will ask you are going to be for you to share such examples, for you to not just talk about one project or one assignment that you did on your own, but also more importantly about what is the role that you played in doing a project that was a teamwork or a team effort, right? The fourth aspect, which is going to change completely, and this is primarily for the organization, not so for students or hiring talent, it's going to be the employee experience. It's difficult to think that I or any of you are going to join an organization without even visiting the campus, and that's a different experience altogether. So what will change is employers will try to create or curate new kind of experiences that give you that feel. A lot of and then what we're doing right now is a classic example, right? What we're doing right now is giving you the same feel of somebody coming and standing in the podium and being able to talk to you and give you some tips. While obviously there is no better method of doing that rather than doing it one-on-one in a personalized manner. But this also helps. This also helps because it's saving time for each one of you. It's saving time for me. And arranging of such sessions is much easier compared to the logistics that are evolved around. So all the organizations have started working and will continue to work on trying to give employees the experience of a lifetime so that they don't feel that they have not seen the campus. They don't feel excluded. They feel that they're a part of the larger ecosystem and the family. The next part is going to become important, right? And what I mean by saying that shift from input and effort to output and outcome is the whole aspect of saying that time and efforts is what we think are important as far as Indian context goes, and the whole concept of manager is built on that. We keep looking at people, and in fact, if I were to draw an analogy now with students, there could be some of your parents, teachers, or well-wishers who will say that, you know what, you have an exam coming and all I see you doing is spending 2 hours with your books. And there could be others who are perhaps spending 16, 17 hours with their books, right? That was and likewise in workspace as well, it is about me spending 13 hours in office versus me spending 7 to 8 hours in office, which is input and effort. That is how our education system, that is how our personal behavior, that is how work dynamics are or were existing. With COVID coming, what has happened significantly and will continue to happen is that all of those make no sense. All of those are not going to be important. What's going to be important is the output at the eventuality of what you have been able to achieve and the outcome. Outcome is nothing but the results. So if I can, let's say, score a 95% by studying for 4 hours a day, I'd rather have that rather than studying for 16 hours and still being able to score 90. So what I'm trying to basically arrive at is that the time factor is going to slowly reduce, even at your workplace, even at your projects that you do. What's going to be more and more important is what is the result out of it. I could have worked for 15 hours, but I still could not complete the project in the fashion that my manager wanted, then there's no point. Whereas one of my other colleagues who perhaps did only 1 hour, but actually delivered the project, is going to be obviously become more important. The last and not the least is going to be the emergence of new roles. And emergence of new roles is primarily for some of you who are into picking up or at least anticipating jobs which are different in nature, anticipating jobs which are more centered towards, let's say, a human behavior approach. And I can give you some classic examples. Emergence of new roles are roles like chief happiness officer, chief storyteller, and whatnot. So there are lots of new roles also that will emerge as a result of this transformation, and things that if there are some of you who feel that you don't want to be in mainstream, you want to do something different, something that your heart desires, I think this is the time when people will start taking notice of that also. I mean, in India, obviously, the only two professions that we have is either an engineer or a doctor. I mean, there's not much after that. But I think with all of this happening, there are going to be tons of new roles that will come, and I think it will open up avenues for a lot of you to start looking at career in a different shape and form altogether. So this slide now is primarily talking about, if all this happens, what is the hiring manager looking for? What is it that I need to do to be able to make that cut? What is it that I need to work towards for me to be able to get my dream job? 5 points that I think are critical and important. One is a person culture fit. What do I mean by a person culture fit? It means that gone are the days when it is all about my ability or my hard skill, that if I can speak well, if I can deal with people well, I will get into HR. If I know the numbers really, really well, if I have a lot of background with respect to maths and stats, I perhaps will do data analytics. If I can code really, really well, I'll take up a engineering assignment, and so on and so forth. I think now culture or my cultural alignment becomes really, really important, right? Which means, do I really understand the company that I am applying for? Have I spent time in reading about the vision, mission, CEO, numbers, what do we do, and so on and so forth before applying? Because those are questions that will come in your discussions. The hiring manager not just will want to look at your technical skills, but will also want to assess you on, for example, if I were to assess you for Wipro, I'll definitely be asking you questions on do you understand our culture? Do you understand the impact that we make in the education space outside of the profits that we deliver day in and day out? Do you understand or do you know the 5 habits or the vision and mission of the organization? So it's very, very important for you to take time out before you apply for a company, before you go and talk to a hiring manager. Do ensure that you have read about the company, about the culture, about their values, and only if you think that it makes sense for you is when you should go for that organization. I mean, there's no point. For example, I'll give you a classic case now. My stint with Jana Small Finance Bank, right? Prior to that, I was always working with multinationals, Genpact, IBM, Capgemini. All of them are non-Indian organizations. When the opportunity with Jana came by, their culture was all about, what was the business model? The business model was about providing loans to people who are below the poverty line, people who do not have access to money. Right? That was a different business model altogether. What tugged my heart is the aspect that all my life I was working for companies which are non-Indian. All my life I was working for companies which perhaps doesn't help my countrymen. But here is an organization now which allows me to obviously earn, because that's the most important aspect. I am making money as well, but also come back home feeling that I've done something for the country, feeling that there is something that's happened which gives me the satisfaction. So that was something which perhaps tugs my heart. It may not tug your heart. For you, it might be important to get an overseas assignment, to go and settle down in London and so on and so forth. It's not wrong. All I'm saying is you need to understand what your cultural alignment is and whether your cultural or your values and goals align with the company that you're going to. And that's going to become very important. Number 2 is going to be resilience and agility. And I think this is one aspect which is a huge gap when I talk about this generation, right? In fact, just half an hour before I'm talking to you guys, I had a session with close to about 13,000 students who we have made offers to. And when we opened up for Q&A, everybody had only one question. I mean, while I spoke so much about culture, about what we do, about roles and whatnot, but 80% of the questions were only in the lines of, sir, will I get cybersecurity? Or, sir, I want Bangalore only. Why are you giving me Pune? What I'm trying to arrive at is that fact that when you start your career, right, and when you, in fact, at a later stage also, but more importantly, when you start your career, your ability to relocate, your ability to be agile, your ability to be resilient is going to become very, very important. Which means if an organization comes to you and gives you a project, let's say in Java and not in cybersecurity, it might be because 1, the demand for Java in that team is higher. 2, because they feel that you can do Java as well, apart from cybersecurity. I mean, if all of us want to do only cybersecurity or only a couple of skill sets, then I'm sure the organization can't hire all of you because the roles are small or whatever that is there in number. If all of us want to be in Bangalore, obviously it won't work out because large organizations will have offices everywhere, will have projects based out of everywhere. So while companies will try and fit you as much as possible, all of you should be very, very agile, very, very comfortable in order to take up roles which could be anywhere in the country, which could be in any skill set which the organization feels is important for you. The third aspect is stewardship. Stewardship I've already covered. Stewardship necessarily means the concept of collaboration, the concept of teamwork. And I think I've spent a good amount of time talking about collaboration and teamwork. Data adoption is another piece which I've already covered, which is start making sense of data, start understanding how data trends, start reading data to analyze what is it that you can change by looking at data, right? Last but not the least is the social quotient of it. I mean, I know that all of you are very, very socially agile. All of you are in Telegram, WhatsApp, TikTok, Instagram, and whatnot. But here in the context of hiring manager outlook, it's also very, very important to be socially visible, to be socially active on a platform, for example, like LinkedIn. Right? LinkedIn is one platform where the entire world today hires from. So if you are somebody who has a knack of being present on LinkedIn and you are very, very active, the chances of you bagging a job before your friend is much higher. So if you take care of these 5 aspects, I think you would have covered most of the things that the hiring managers are looking forward to. So now let me bring you to the skills of the future, right? And this is so anybody who says that I know what the future is perhaps not looking at things the right way, because none of us knew that COVID can happen. None of us predicted that we'll get to a stage. So future is going to be very, very uncertain, right? But if you were to look at the near-term future, these are some of the skills which we feel, and this is a NASSCOM study which talks about what are some of the skills which are going to be extremely, extremely important. Having said this, there are a lot of non-tech, non-technical, more human-centric roles as well, which are going to become important. Virtual reality, cloud computing, 3D printing, AI, big data, cybersecurity, RPA. I mean, obviously, all of us are aware of this. Having said this doesn't mean that if I'm not somebody who is studying for any of this, I won't have a job. That's not the point. The point is that these are some of the jobs which are going to be employing the maximum number of students. Outside of this chart as well, there are going to be thousands of new roles which will emerge, wherein if for example, I mean, I don't see HR here, but HR, sales, marketing, UI, UX, accounts, and all of that are going to be also extremely, extremely critical. But in terms of volumes, in terms of what COVID has transformed, these are some of the skills which are going to become specific things that you might want to pick up if you happen to be an engineer. The final slide, talking about some tips, and these are tips again which are a result of some of the experiences that I've had talking to several lakhs of students, hiring them, and then moving across different parts of the country. The most important is embracing the true you. I think what a lot of us do, and what a lot of you at least do, is trying to copy paste. I told you about a recruiter spending 7 seconds on a resume, right? What does it mean? I should pick up a fancy looking resume for somebody senior, just copy paste. Trust me, even in that 7 seconds, a good recruiter or a good HR professional will be able to know that this is not you. So instead of trying to copy paste things, it's okay to get inspired. It's okay to look at specific pointers, specific aspects, specific templates. But what's most important is that the resume should be talking about you, right? I also gave you some examples of the hiring managers will definitely ask you examples of how you have demonstrated teamwork in your past, right? Some of you might want to cope up a story or cook up a story that I will say this, who cares whether I've done it or not? But trust you me, the moment you get probed, if you are not telling the truth, if you're cooking up a story, you will get caught. So if there has been no situation where you worked as a team, it's good and it's important for you to acknowledge that and say that, you know what, sir, I've not got a chance to work in a team. Having said this, I understand very well how teamwork is important. And you can in fact also talk about some sports, that while I've not had projects where I've been able to deliver good results in a team, but I am a part of a football team. I'm a part of the cricket team where we have done this and that. All I'm trying to say is that be yourself. Do not try and fake answers which doesn't describe you, because then you're not being able to, one, do justice to your own capability, two, giving the right message, because ultimately you will get caught and you will not be hired for that role. So it's absolutely okay to say no to some of the answers if you don't know and move on with the next question. The second important aspect that's important, which some of us don't do when we start our careers, is going to be appointing your people champions. And your people champions are your mentors, are your professors, are your seniors, are your elderly relatives, could be the professionals from the industry as well. So find out those people champions. Always ensure that you connect with them on and off as and when you want to take an important career choice. For example, let me tell you that, let's assume 6 months down the line, you have 3 offers in hand. You have offers from 3 companies and you don't know which to choose. If you ask yourself, the easiest answer will be, let me pick up the company that has the maximum number of zeros in their offer letter, or whosoever is offering me 15, 20, 25,000 more, I will join that company. And that's a mistake that I think a lot of you do. What's also important is the future path. What's also important is the growth of the organization, of how will you grow, what will you get, what kind of technology are you getting, and so on and so forth. And that's when your people champions will come into play. When you start then talking to your seniors, to your placement officers, to your elders, to people from the industry, let's say like me, you will then get a larger perspective of them saying that, you know what, while this company might be giving you 20,000 more, have you logged into Quora, for example? Have you logged into Glassdoor to see what kind of culture there is? That people perhaps get fired any day. So what's the point of you getting 20,000 extra when you don't have a job security and things like that? So it's important that every step of your decision where you think, and even if you don't have to make a choice, talking to people champions, talking to elders, talking to people who've been there, done that, will help you take those specific decisions, or at least carve your career strategy. Social media presence, I've already told you. Make your presence felt on LinkedIn. It's going to become very, very important. Every organization that you're going to apply for, read about that organization. Those details also you'll find on LinkedIn. Try and study some of those personalities who work in that organization. Try and connect with them to understand what really is their field when they work for this organization, and things like that. Importance of teamwork, we have spoken. Being a disruptor, again, is nothing but about people who think out of the box, people who want to challenge the status quo. It's not a negative connotation. Don't start picking up fights at all times, saying that if everybody is going in one direction, just because I want to be a disruptor, I will take the other step. That's not who a disruptor is. A disruptor is somebody who thinks that there is a point or there's a merit in what he or she is thinking. So if you think genuinely that there is a reason for you to take the other route, while 99% of your team thinks that road is better, you should be able to speak up and say that, you know what, can we take some time and think of why are we not taking that road, for example. Right? Trust, we've spoken about how trust will become absolutely critical aspect in your career as you move along. And this trust is not just in your team. This trust is for your seniors, organization, and so on and so forth. And trust will also come into play in cases like, example, I have done Java all my life, right? 6 months down the line, my project manager says that I will need you to move into doing Python, for example, that move into a Python project. And that trust is important because my manager is asking me to do that because he or she believes that I can do that. And perhaps there is a more need for the organization to get me involved in a project there. So I think trust is going to become important. Last but not the least is the whole concept of learnability. Your ability to learn from everything, your ability to learn from your juniors, from your seniors, from your friends, from your colleagues. I think if you look around, this might sound a lot of gyan for you, but I think this is important. The fact that learning never stops. When you look around, when you look at even children for that matter, when you look at children, when you study them, when you observe them for a while, you'll know that there are so many things that we can learn from them. For example, you will see a kid either crying or smiling for no reason. And sometimes it's okay. It's okay to be happy. It's okay to ignore the difficult choices that you have in life, right? Because just by worrying, that worry is not going to go away. So all I'm trying to say is that do not ever stop learning. Pick up certifications. That's going to make a difference in your first job. Try and see which is the data trend. Try and understand what is more that I can do to shape up my resume, my overall personality, my overall experience, so that the time when a hiring manager or a recruiter comes to my campus, I am chosen and I end up with 2 or 3 offers, because then the ball is in my court for me to decide which is the best organization for me to pick up. Right. With this, I will stop. I'll end my monologue and I'll open this up for question and answers. Thank you so much.
Hello students, if you have any queries, please mention your question in the chat box, or else you can directly ask to the resource person, sir. If you have any queries, please mention in the chat box. If you have any questions, please mention that in the chat box. And thank you, sir. Thank you for the session. It's a very informative session, and our students will definitely utilize that in uplifting their careers. Thank you so much for your presence and for your guidance also. A very good afternoon, one and all. I am Chaitra, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce, Seshadipuram Degree College, Mysore. It's my immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks for the event. First, I would like to thank our resource person, Mr. Bhavesh Patel, Talent Advisor, Wipro Limited, Bengaluru, for his gracious presence and his guidance, motivation, and words for the students. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Yeah, then I extend my heartfelt thanks to Mr. Prajwal Vasista, Coordinator, ICT Academy, and his whole team. Thank you, sir. And I extend my heartfelt thanks to Professor Samya Irupakesh, Seshadipuram Degree College, Mysore, Principal, for her continuous support and encouragement. Thank you, ma'am. Then I would like to thank all my teaching staff and my dear students of various colleges for your presence. Thank you, one and all. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your presence.
Thanks. All the best. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.